This is the painkiller flower America forgot it could grow. A bright roadside wildflower once sold for pain, restlessness, and sleep. It belongs to the same botanical family as the plant that gave the world morphine and heroin, but it is not opium. And that is where the story gets strange. Americans now spend billions on sleep gummies, magnesium powders, calming teas, and stress supplements. While this old pharmacy plant can still grow from a seed packet, it did not vanish because it was proven useless. It vanished because no one could truly own it. Stay until the end, because what happened to the California poppy says a lot about medicine, money, and the plants hiding in plain sight. Section 1. The flower Americans keep driving past. You have probably seen it before without thinking twice. A flash of orange on a dry California hillside. A bloom along a roadside. A flower printed on a postcard from the American West. Maybe even a packet of wild flower seeds sitting near the checkout at a local nursery. Most people see California poppy as scenery, pretty, harmless, almost decorative. But that is what makes the story so strange. This was not an exotic herb from another continent or some rare mountain plant with a luxury price tag. It is native along the Pacific slope of North America, deeply tied to California, and eventually planted across much of the country. In 1903, California even made it the official state flower. So before we talk about capsules, teas, or pharmacy catalogs, start with this. The plant was already part of the American landscape. It could fit in a backyard wildflower strip, a sunny raised bed edge, a low-water garden, or a dry patio container. But the reason this flower became controversial starts with one word: poppy. Section 2. The poppy that sounds dangerous but isn't opium. In America, the word poppy does not sound innocent anymore. It brings up morphine, painkillers, addiction, and a crisis that has touched almost every community in the country. So yes, California poppy belongs to the poppy family. But here is the distinction that changes everything. It is not the opium poppy. The opium poppy carries compounds like morphine and codeine. California poppy does not. Same botanical family, very different story. And that is why old doctors found it so interesting. It seemed to sit in a narrow space Americans still search for today. Something gentle for pain, restlessness, and sleep, without stepping into the dangerous territory of opium. Later, research would not study it as a narcotic. It would look more toward calming pathways in the nervous system. That does not make it a replacement for medicine. It makes it a plant worth studying, growing, and respecting. That distinction matters, because without it, the whole story sounds impossible. Section 3. Before it had an English name. Long before it had an English name, the people living in what is now California knew this flower in a practical way. They were not seeing it as decoration. In older traditions, parts of the plant were connected with pain, restlessness, sleep, and calming children. That does not prove every modern claim, and it should not turn a roadside flower into a do-it-yourself prescription. But it explains why later doctors paid attention. This was not a wellness trend invented for a plastic bottle on a supplement shelf. It was local plant knowledge, built from the landscape. When Spanish settlers saw hillsides glowing orange, they called it Copa de Oro, cup of gold. Today, it makes more sense to grow it as a history plant, pollinator plant, and backyard reminder than to harvest it from roadsides. Then, it crossed from native knowledge into something more official, the American pharmacy shelf. Section 4. When Big Pharma actually sold the flower. By 1890, this little flower had entered a place most people would never expect, the catalog of Parke Davis, one of the most powerful drug companies in America at the time, and that detail matters. This was not a fringe herbalist whispering about a weed behind a farmhouse. This was a major pharmaceutical house selling California poppy as a sleep aid and pain reliever, describing it in the language of the day as gentle, useful, and harmless. For a brief moment, the plant stood in a rare middle ground. It still carried the memory of native plant knowledge, but it also had a place inside formal American medicine. Eclectic physicians helped give it that standing. They had medical schools, reference books, trained doctors, and a whole clinical tradition built around plants. They did not know about GABA receptors or modern brain chemistry, but they did know what they saw at the bedside: people in pain, people who could not sleep, and a flower that seemed to calm without the shadow of opium. Back then, a plant preparation could sit beside other pharmacy products. Today, it would be fighting for attention against branded capsules, sleep gummies, and patented molecules. For a moment, it looked like American medicine had found something rare, a gentle answer to pain and sleep, but then the ground shifted. Section 5. The medical system changed around it. In the early 1900s, American medicine began to reorganize itself. Medical schools were judged more strictly. Licensing boards gained power. Laboratories, standardized training, and factory-made drugs became the new center of authority. To be fair, some of this change did real good. It shut down weak schools, raised standards, and pushed medicine toward better testing. But here is the part people forget. When a system decides what counts as real medicine, it also decides what gets left outside the room. Plant-based traditions like the eclectic physicians did not disappear overnight because every remedy was disproven. They lost schools, licenses, prestige, money, and the professional machinery that kept their knowledge alive. And California poppy was caught in that shift. A lab-made molecule can become a brand, a prescription, a protected product, a market. A wildflower growing from a seed packet in someone's backyard cannot be controlled the same way. By 1939, the last eclectic medical school had closed. The flower was still blooming, but the people trained to defend it were gone. It did not vanish because the flower stopped blooming. It vanished because no one could turn a roadside wildflower into a medical monopoly. And then, after decades of being treated like scenery, the lab quietly came back. Section 6. The lab comes back around. Decades later, researchers began looking again at what the old doctors had described. And the answer was not a dramatic miracle headline. It was quieter than that, but maybe more believable. In 1991, research began pointing to measurable sedative and calming effects from California poppy extract. Later, studies looked deeper at its natural alkaloids and how they may interact with the brain's calming system, especially pathways connected to GABA, the same broad system modern anti-anxiety and sleep drugs are famous for touching. Now, that does not mean this flower is a natural version of those drugs. It does not mean you should use it like one. But it does mean the old reputation was not just random folklore. Traditional knowledge came first. Mechanism came later. And honestly, that is what makes this plant so interesting. Modern wellness companies now sell calm as a label, a subscription, a capsule, a gummy, a monthly reorder. California poppy had that calm and sleep reputation long before stress support became a product category. But here's where we have to be honest, because this is the detail most viral herbal videos would skip. Section 7. The study people misquote. The strongest modern human study people usually point to came out in 2004, and on the surface, it sounds impressive. 264 people with mild to moderate anxiety tested in a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled trial. That is the kind of phrase supplement ads love to put in bold letters. But here's the part they often leave out. The product was not California poppy alone. It was a combination: California poppy, hawthorn, and magnesium. And that detail matters. The formula performed better than placebo, but the flower was part of a team, not a solo miracle. Honestly, that does not weaken the story. It makes it more honest. Old herbal medicine often worked this way, not one magic ingredient, but plants and minerals used together for a specific kind of person, at a specific moment. Modern marketing likes to isolate one-star ingredient because that is easier to sell. But real tradition was usually messier, slower, and more practical. So the study does not prove that California poppy cures anxiety by itself. It shows that the old direction was worth studying, and that precision matters, and that honesty matters even more when modern regulators enter the story. Section 8. Modern regulators didn't laugh it off. Most Americans are used to hearing two extreme versions of herbs. Either they are miracle cures from the internet, or they are dismissed as old stories with no serious place in medicine. California poppy sits in a more interesting middle. Outside the United States, modern regulators have not exactly laughed it off. Health Canada has a traditional use monograph for California poppy that includes uses as a calmative for restlessness and nervousness, a sleep aid during mental stress, and an analgesic in herbal medicine. In Europe, the Herbal Medicine Committee recognizes it under traditional use for mild mental stress and sleep. Now, that is not the same as saying the FDA has approved it like a prescription drug. It is not a miracle label. But it is also not random internet folklore. It is a careful category, long traditional use, some scientific clues, and very real warnings. And that is what makes the story feel different from the glossy, calm and sleep products in the American supplement aisle. The same words keep echoing across time: calm, sleep, pain. From the old pharmacy catalog to traditional herbal medicine to cautious modern regulation, the plant never fully left the conversation. So, if it has history, science clues, and careful recognition, the next question is obvious. Can Americans actually grow it? Section 9. Can you actually grow it? Yes. And this is where the story stops feeling like an archive and starts feeling like something you could actually do in your own yard. California poppy is not a delicate wellness plant that needs a greenhouse, a humidifier, and a complicated care routine. It is almost the opposite. It likes full sun, fast drainage, and sandy or poor soil. The seeds are usually sown shallow, and once the plant is happy, it can reseed on its own. In many dry, sunny parts of the country, it fits naturally into the places homeowners often struggle with: a strip near the fence, the edge of a raised bed, a low-water garden, or a patio container that gets real light. Honestly, for the price of one supplement haul sleep gummies, calming tea, magnesium powder, you could walk into Home Depot, Lowe's, or a local nursery and buy seed packets, potting mix, and a container. That does not mean you should dig it from public land or pull it from someone else's yard. Grow it from seed, check your local guidance, and keep it in your own garden. Because its value is not only medicinal, it is visual, ecological, historical, and practical. And even if you never use it as an herb, the plant still earns its place. Section 10. The pollinator bonus most people miss. And even if someone is skeptical of the herbal side, California poppy still has a reason to be in the yard. Across the U.S., more homeowners are replacing dead lawn edges with pollinator strips, native flowers, and plants that do more than just sit there looking expensive. California poppy fits that world perfectly. Extension sources note visits from bumblebees, sweat bees, mining bees, butterflies, and other native bees. So instead of buying decorative annuals that need constant watering, fertilizer, and replacement every season, this can become part of a low-cost, self-seeding patch in a dry border, sunny lawn replacement, or mixed wildflower bed. Its ecological value stands even when the medical claims are handled carefully. But this is also where the video has to slow down and say the thing that protects the audience. Section 11. Gentle does not mean risk-free. But natural does not automatically mean safe. And with California poppy, the same calming quality that makes the plant interesting is exactly why it deserves caution. Modern traditional use guidance treats it as an active plant, not a harmless decoration. It is generally framed for adult use, and warnings often include avoiding it during pregnancy, asking a practitioner when breastfeeding, and being careful around alcohol, sedatives, sleep products, anxiety medication, or anything that can make you drowsy. If something can affect calm, sleep, or the nervous system, you do not casually stack it with other drugs and hope for the best. So no, this is not a throw away your meds story. It is not a DIY replacement for painkillers, sleep medicine, anxiety treatment, or medical care. The smarter lesson is knowing when not to use something. So, California poppy is not a miracle cure. It is something more interesting, a real American wildflower with old pharmacy history, traditional use, modern research clues, cautious recognition, and a place in a sunny backyard. Some plants are not forgotten because they failed. Some are forgotten because they do not fit systems built to sell, own, and scale medicine. And if one flower has a hidden file like this, the next one may already be growing closer to your house than the nearest pharmacy.